Good afternoon. I'm at the Public Library of Anniston-Calhoun County. I'm Sherry Blanton. Most of y'all know me from Calhoun County Master Gardeners, or either from the Southern Gardener and the Anniston Star. And also, I've also nicknamed myself lately the Crazy Plant Lady. And I have been confirmed for that title because on Sunday I was ordering plants and I got an emergency email from my credit card company wanting to know if there was some fraud going on at my house because there was so much activity, and they listed all my plant purchases. So I figured, they finally figured out, hey, it is the Crazy Plant Lady, and she's ordering plants because it's cold. I want to explain to you that when I do these programs, it is live. The only person here with me is Shane, who's sitting behind his computer, and a young lady who's learning how to do this. There's no nice audience of smiling faces out there to encourage me or to laugh when I say something funny. So I just have to prattle on to a camera with the big light over it to my PowerPoint. Now, on occasion, I may say something wrong. And if I do, the best thing to do is just say, bless her heart, and just move on. I don't need you to post it to Facebook or tell me what kind of mistake I made, because I'll figure it out eventually, and then I'll feel really, really embarrassed. But it is live. There is no editing. So we are going to talk about pink today, and pink is my favorite color. It was my daughter's favorite color, and she grew up in a room that was Pepto-Bismol pink. And we always threatened her that if she didn't stay in college, she'd have to live in that pink room the rest of her life. When we talk about pink, there's so many references in our lives. In the pink, a pink slip, tickled pink. We have pink strawberry ice cream. We have pink ribbons for breast cancer. We have pink hair bows and baby pink dresses, bazooka bubble gum, which I used to love when I was a kid, pink flamingos, and a wonderful song by Marty Robbins, a white sport coat and a pink carnation. We always think about pink with little girls, and that's why you always know when you look in the carriage and you see pink that it's a little girl. So we're going to start perfectly pink. Audrey Hepburn, who was my personal icon, said, I believe in pink. And I think that during this time of pandemic, we all need to believe in pink and have a little pink in our lives. I came dressed in pink today, and I think I'm going to dress in pink every day and plant pink flowers everywhere I can. The color pink, it's not on the color wheel, and during past shows that we've done at the library, we've talked about the color wheel. It's a means to coordinate colors so that they look good together. Pink is a tint. It is red mixed with white, and the more white, the lighter the pink. The less white, it's a darker pink. And then you can have salmon and coral have a little bit of orange in it, but they're still pink. And ruby has a slightly purple tinge, but it's still pink. And pink is the color for today. Think pink. In the Western civilization, we always think of pink and women. In Japan, pink equals masculinity, and in Korea, pink symbolizes trust. I like all those different views of pink. We can stretch our imagination and realize that pink is not always what we thought it was. These are some beautiful pink coneflowers from my garden last summer. Butterflies loved them, heat tolerant. More about pink. Pink represents the universal love of oneself and others. I think we all need that right now. It represents friendship, affection, harmony, inner peace, approachability. And this beautiful pink flower is a pink hardy begonia called Barbara Rogers, and that was an attempt to be artistic. But I love the pink up against the green. Pink and green are wonderful together. More pink. Pink was actually named after a pink flower, an old-fashioned carnation. And the flowers look like they were cut with a pinking shear, which is something that people use when they sew. But what is so wonderful about these pink flowers is they have a dynamic pink fragrance. It actually smells pink, if that's possible. And the smell is overwhelming. If you know how carnations that you get in the store smell, this is better. And I also love these pink because they have a silvery gray foliage, and if you keep them pruned, they keep on blooming. They make a wonderful ground cover, come back every year and keep spreading, so you have lots of pink. Pastel pink inspires a feeling of garden calm. People remember it pink in old-fashioned cottage gardens, and it's best up close because the hot sun can wash out the pink. I'm not wearing pastel pink because most people who know me know that there's not much calm about me. I love pale pink. I have it all over my yard, and one of the things that I have the most are pale pink camellias. Baby pink, sweet, nice, playful, cute, romantic, charming, feminine, and tender. That makes you understand why I'm not wearing pale pink today, but I love pale pink in the garden. And this, I believe, may be a camellia called June May. Dark pink. This is a beautiful dark pink peony, and deeper pink means passion and represents passion in our lives. So all of you who go around in your fuchsia and your dark pinks know that you're sending out a message of passion. Vibrant pink. The darker, brighter pinks handle more sun. So these are a plant that the darker pinks can go out in full sun and not wash out, hold on to their color, and they stand out from a distance. This is pink Sweet Williams, and they are a delight in the winter and in the spring, and they smell good too. This is one of my favorite pinks, and I sort of cheated on this pink flower. It's got some yellow on it, but I wanted us to keep our minds open about how pink could go with other colors. Native azaleas have a marvelous fragrance. You can tell a native azalea from a regular evergreen that we all know, like Pride of Mobile, that covers our gardens every spring. They lose all their leaves and they kind of look like sticks in the winter, but oh, when spring comes, they're quite wonderful. These, even though they are pale pink, can take more sun than a regular azalea, but they do prefer some part shade. But look how that yellow goes with that pink. You'd never think about putting the two together, but nature did. I love sedums. Sedums are a hardy perennial, stands up to heat, drought, nasty creatures, insects, diseases, and the pollinators love it. You can put it in a container where it will need some more water. If you put it in the ground, it will just laugh at the heat and the sun and will come back. And this one I am thinking may be called neon sedum. You notice the great big flowers? I've actually used these flowers in place of roses in a flower arrangement, but they're quite wonderful. Begonia. I've developed a love affair with begonia in the last couple of years, especially in containers. I realized that these are one tough plant. And you see, of course, that the pollinators love it. And it looks nice up against this green leaf. When you see this lighter green leaf, it means this plant needs to be in the shade. Some begonias will have like a burgundy, coppery type kind of leaf, and that means it can take more sun. But I've gone to planting a lot more begonias because it's virtually trouble-free in containers. Now, I'll be honest, when I plant it in the ground, they never bloom. They just sit there and say, I'm not happy. But in a container, they're beautiful, and you can keep them pinched off and actually root them and have some more. Lantana is and this is, there are many kinds of lantana. This is Miss Pink Huff, and she is mostly pink. She is a woody perennial, means she's going to die back down in the winter. And I usually cut mine to the ground. The bees and the butterflies and the hummingbirds love this plant. Drought tolerant, doesn't need a lot of water in the summertime, but there's one thing to say about lantana. They produce little bitty blue fruits that are extremely toxic. So if you have small children who want to play tea party with the berries, you want to keep an eye on them, or maybe not have this plant in your garden. But lantana laugh at the heat, and we always like that in Alabama. Penta is another one of my very favorite plants. It's heat and sun tolerant. It's tough, doesn't get any diseases, and the hummingbirds and the butterflies and the bees just are drawn to it. And it comes actually in red and pink and white, and I actually mix my red and my pink because I think that's a dynamite combination. But if you've never tried a penta, put that on your to-buy list for this summer. This is an annual, it's a perennial hibiscus. There's also an annual hibiscus, but this is a perennial. I believe it's disco bell. It comes back every year, and it's sun tolerant. Okay, you're going to notice it's not perfect, so you know this came out of my garden. Somebody had a snack on the left side of it, and I'm pretty sure that was probably a Japanese beetle, because normally as soon as they bloom, the Japanese beetles start to visit my yard. But the flowers are almost the size of a dinner plate, and they are quite luscious. Gara is another wonderful sun-tolerant plant that appeals to the bees and the birds and the hummingbirds. And it also laughs at the heat. As a matter of fact, it does not want you to water it and hover over it and do all sorts of things to it. It wants you just to leave it alone and let it do its thing. I love to see the hummingbirds swoop in. I love to see the butterflies. I love to see the bees. And at the end of the season, I cut it to the ground, and then it comes back up next year and continues to grow. And I really do like this pink. It's almost got like a burgundy type leaf on occasion. This also comes in a light pink, so you can mix the two of them together. This is a great plant for the summer garden. Even caladiums can be pink, pink foliage. I planted this about 3 years ago, so I don't know exactly which caladium it is, but it was in my garden, and I wish I knew the name so I could get another one for this year. But if you go into any kind of caladium catalog, the caladiums will be listed by color, and you can type in pink. I always insist on bringing my spouse out to look at the caladiums because I say, don't they look like a watercolor, like a painting? I believe this one looks like it's in part shade. I see a hose there because they do like to be watered in the summer. But this is a great foliage plant. Beauty in your garden is not just in a flower. It can be in your foliage. This is another wonderful pink. It's Profusion zinnia, and it's cherry. And you can see butterflies are drawn to it. This is another one, just says the hotter it is and the more sun it is, bring it on and I will bloom better. It is an annual, and toward the end of the summer season it does look kind of bedraggled, especially if you've watered it too much. But if you want to bring in the beautiful butterflies like we've got right here, get yourself some Profusion zinnias. They're easy to find in the big box stores. Don't have to order them on a catalog. be online and have some credit card company call you and say, we think there's fraud coming from your credit card, and not want to admit that to many people, including my husband. Everybody knows the garden chrysanthemum, the queen of the fall garden that comes along. You'll see them on every step and stairway and path and hay bale, but they also come in pink. There are chrysanthemums that aren't orange and aren't yellow and aren't sort of purple, but they're hot pink. These are also sun tolerant. I have tried to replant these in my yard. I've never had any success. So I just enjoy them for several months, and then I pitch them. If you've got them in containers or in the ground, they will need lots and lots and lots of water because it's still hot when they're blooming. Ryan's chrysanthemum. This is actually pink. You can see the sun has washed out the pink a little bit, but it is actually not a bright pink, but a semi-bright pink. This is a definite spreading perennial. You let it go and it'll be everywhere. It will actually climb over its neighbors, but what I read in a plant book is the 1st of July, give it a good haircut, and that will prevent some of the spreading. But it is really a jewel in the garden, and that is not as easy to find. You may find it not in a local big box nursery, but maybe in a locally owned nursery. Or if you know somebody who's got some, you can say, could I have a small piece? Because that's all I had of this, and pretty soon you'll have this many. This was in the Jacksonville Pocket Park. This is, and I promise myself every time I do this, I'm not going to say, this is one of my favorite plants, but this is one of my favorite plants. It's a Florus cyclamen. I took this picture in a nursery. There were scads and scads of them, and I'm embarrassed to tell you I have almost this many at my house. As soon as I start seeing them places, I start buying them. They are actually an annual houseplant, but the last few years I've been saving mine and letting them spend the winter on my sun porch, and they've actually bloomed again, and I got an extra year of love out of these and joy. But if you've never done a cyclamen in your house around Thanksgiving and Christmas, put that on your to-do list for next year. There are perennial cyclamens, but I have not tried them, so I can't let you know how successful they are. Even without the flowers, the leaves are dear. Zinnias, that is one of my new very favorite flowers. I got to know zinnias at Cane Creek Community Gardens, where the master gardeners work and have their clubhouse. They are drought tolerant. They love the heat. They are pollinator friendly. These are receding annuals. So what you can do is when they have finished blooming, you collect the seeds, and the next year you put them out again. Now, I am not sure if they'll come up on their own if the seeds drop in the ground. I guess it depends on how much the soil is disturbed. But you see, again, in two of these pink, wonderful zinnias that we've got butterflies visiting. I'm all into butterflies. This is another favorite plant. It's pink muhly grass. Here's another example where the oomph does not have to be in the bloom. It can actually be in the fronds. This is a wonderful perennial native. I took this picture in Florida where the pink muhly grass grows like weeds. A lot of people up here grow it. I've not had as good a luck as my Florida natives, but every yard where we vacationed in Florida had one or a dozen of these. And these can actually be bought locally in one of the local nurseries that we have. And you can also find it in any local nursery like in Birmingham or Leeds. But it is a gorgeous pink cloud, especially when it's blowing. Coleus comes in all sorts of colors. This is just what you call one of the darker pinks. Some of them grow in the shade and some of them grow in the sun. I think they struggle, even if they're sun-tolerant coleus, I think they struggle in the sun, and they require at least twice a day watering by August. And every year, I swear, I am not going to plant anymore. And every year, I see one that just enchants me, and I plant them again. My neighbor and I have developed a little exchange. When we get by our coleus, we snip off pieces and root them for each other so we can have different colors. So you could start with one coleus and snip and snip and snip, and you'll have all that you want. This came from a beautiful garden in Water Sound at the beach where they truly mass their colors, and I guess it's kind of a lesson for all of us to, excuse me, I don't want to forget this beautiful begonia. We talked about the begonias before. Here's a bigger one, and you notice again the shiny green leaves. That means this one needs to grow in the shade. My sister and I have talked about this frequently, and we have not figured out why we can't get it to grow in the ground, so I'm going to recommend it for containers. This is an evergreen azalea, which we all know because in Alabama, what happens in the spring? We have hundreds and hundreds of beautiful evergreen, indica, and other kinds of azaleas. I think this may be a Hilda Niblet, but she has lost her label so many years ago. But if you go when the azaleas are blooming or look online, there are many places you can see what pink appeals to you. And mass them. They make a stunning pink effect in your yard. This is a gorgeous pink called George Tabor, which gets to be a huge azalea. This one can take more sun than some of the others, but it is magnificent in full bloom. And this was actually in my yard, and I'm very proud of it. I gave it a haircut and hope it'll be pretty again this year. This is, for one reason, this is my favorite plant. For one reason, it is my least favorite plant. It has the most heavenly smelling, fragrant, wonderful little bitty pink flowers that you can possibly imagine. I love the variegated foliage, but this is the pickiest plant. You can go out and look at it on Monday and it's just shining away, and you go out on Thursday and it's dead. Daphnes get Southern Daphne death or Southern Daphne syndrome, where they just say, hey, my life's over, too bad for you, I'm going to die for no reason. And all of us crazy plant ladies and men, because there are just as many guilty, will run right out and get another one. I'm on my fourth one, and I'm determined that this one's going to live. 4 is a charm. I love this plant. I have bought it 3 or 4 times, and it has always died. This is a spring ephemera, which means that it disappears as soon as it gets hot. It's perennial, and it is lovely. But I read in a book yesterday that it is very toxic, and especially the roots. So if you have dogs, and I have a nosy dog, this is probably not the best plant to have in your yard, but this one was in my yard. I've given up 3 times on this one, and I'm moving on. But I do love it, and I was thinking about trying it in another place one more time. I'm not much of a petunia grower, but I know a lot of people are, and a bed of pink petunias is a joy. These are annuals, and several years ago, pink wave, or the wave petunia in pink, was the cat's meow. I don't see as many of them as I used to, but I know they're still around, and they can welcome the sun. Nerium oleander. I have tried to grow this, and the cold got it, but if you're at the beach, it's everywhere. This is a woody ornamental. It will die back during the winter, and I usually cut mine back to the ground. It's got a heavenly smell, but I'll tell you folks, this plant is very toxic. So if you got little people running around or dogs that just can't leave anything alone, This might be one that you want to enjoy in somebody else's yard. It's quite lovely and a beautiful shade of pink. Confederate rose. Every garden needs one, even though it can be the size of a small tree or a very large bush and is a woody ornamental. That means it looks like sticks in the winter, so I usually give mine a haircut after it freezes. Comes up every spring like clockwork, loves the sun, and the bloom is fabulous. It's actually not a rose, it's actually a hibiscus. And it blooms in the fall, and just when you're really hungry for something beautiful, you've got something pink growing. There are some that are red and start out red, open up pink, some that start out white, turn to pink, some that start out pink and turn to white. Taylor's Perfection. This is a beautiful winter bloomer. Mine is covered with flowers. It will be blooming any minute, and it is a gorgeous shade of pink. And I enjoy so much going out and visiting it. I know the cold that they're talking about next year is gonna blast them pretty badly, but this week, if any are blooming, I'll enjoy them. But it is perfection. Pink lace crepe myrtle. I did not know there was a pink lace. I knew there was a Natchez and lavenders. So if you're craving pink, ask for pink lace. Now, I'm going to have to just step off my pink soapbox and say, plant the right plant in the right place. Please do not buy a crepe myrtle that is too big for your spot and then commit murder and cut off the whole top of the tree. You destroy it. Crepe myrtles come in all different sizes. So the minute you think just because your neighbor cut their tree down to stumps does not mean that you have to do it. But there's a lot of lovely pink for you. This is Jimmy's tree. It is at First United Methodist Church, and most everybody knows Jimmy's tree. It's a flowering cherry that Jimmy Roberts planted in the courtyard of First United Methodist Church. One year I got 3 emails and a phone call. Sherry, Jimmy's tree is blooming. You gotta go, you gotta go. And I hopped in my car with my camera and went down, and if ever, I was speechless. I was speechless when I saw this gorgeous Kwanzaa cherry. Even the bark is beautiful. Cherry trees can be finicky, but look at this. I mean, it's magnificent. And to see it in person, you can go down the alley and get a good view of it when it starts to bloom. And I appreciate all the good friends that I have who knew that I would appreciate this tree. I love lilies. I have lots of them. That was the reason for one of the calls was the lilies I was ordering the other day. A lily is a perennial. It likes its head in the sun and its feet in the shade. Comes in all sorts of colors of pink and also reds, blacks, purples, whites, yellow. One hint about lilies. If you decide to bring them in the house, make sure to clean that pollen off the ends, and you can see it right in the middle, the little brown. I put a bouquet in my brand new car, and it looked like a mustard substance all around my seat, and it will do that on your clothes, and trust me, it does not come out. So for the whole time I drove that car, I had a memory of those lilies in my back seat. Most of you who know me as the Southern Gardener know that my real weakness is pansies. And last year I planted a whole bed of antique pink pansies mixed with something else. Year before last year was white. Year before that was pink. It's a cold weather annual, and it's doing very well this year. It holds its head up to the cold, but as soon as it gets warm, it will die back. But look at this beautiful pastel pink. This is calm in the garden. Most of you that read my column also know that I have a thing for Japanese maples. I'm not shy about it. I love them. I'm collecting them that have pink leaves. And I have been in hunt for this Japanese maple rustling in the pink for over 2 years. And a very good friend sent me an email one morning. He said, "Weren't you looking for this? I just saw it." I said, "Glory be. Yep, there it is. I'm getting it." And it's out in the yard, and I can't wait to see its pink leaves. So there is pink foliage, and this is going to have it. Is there anything more wonderful than a pink tulip? Nothing. Pink tulips. I put annual or perennials because really and truly, in the catalogs, they call them a perennial, but in Anniston, Alabama, and parts around it, it is an annual. And unfortunately, the squirrels and the chipmunks love them as much as we do, and as fast as you plant them, they'll dig them up. So I've gone to planting them in big containers and treating them as an annual. Pink daylily. You can buy these anywhere. They'll be in all the big box stores, but if you really want to have an experience, go online and check out a daylily online site and be prepared to be overwhelmed. Daylilies are perennials, and they like full sun. They do not perform in shade. I found that out at my house. But this is a magnificent pink daylily. This is another one of my favorite plants. My husband says, "I don't really like it. It hangs its head down." I said, "Well, get down on the ground and look up, and its head will be in the air." I mean, what's the problem? I love Lenten roses. They are beginning to bloom right now. They are forming evergreen carpet everywhere that they reseed, because they do like to reseed, and they provide so much cheer. They will bloom from now until like next March, and then they start turning green, and then they put on a lot of seed pods so that you can get lots and lots of Lenten roses. The only thing is, if you buy the really fancy ones, they are sterile, and so they do not reproduce like I'm going to use the word plain, but they're not plain. Just the regular hybrids reproduce. I have hundreds and hundreds of them, and I love them. But the fancy ones that I buy, they do not reproduce. They're sterile, they stay in their spot, and they don't move. I love pink hydrangeas. I have heard every story in the world about how to turn a blue hydrangea pink. Frankly, if it's blue, it's supposed to be blue, and if it's pink, it's supposed to be pink. I've heard it has something to do with the amount of acidity in the ground. My sister called me one day and told me if she buried roofing nails around her hydrangea, it would turn pink. I don't really believe in putting a lot of fertilizer to try to change a color. I just accept a hydrangea as blue, but you can buy them pink. And I know that the Endless Summer series has now come out with a pink one, because I have one, and it stayed pink. And if you really want to make it pink and don't want it to try to turn blue in the ground, put it in a container. This is a new one for me, and I love its name, Pinky Winky. This is a panicle hydrangea, and long after all the summer hydrangeas had quit blooming, this lovely was still pink, and I went out every day to look at it, and I must have taken 50 pictures of it. And I didn't cut the spent head off because I wanted to remember how beautiful it is. But if you need Pinky Winky, it's not hard to find, and you will love it. Now, this can take sun. It's a panicle hydrangea. This is something else that I love, and I'm not going to say that again, but if you're a crazy plant lady or just a crazy man gardener, you love all the plants that you see. This is a heuchera. A heuchera is a foliage plant that remains evergreen. They come in every color that you can imagine, and here's a pink one. I just ordered one that's got red leaves, and I think it's called Fire Truck. I don't exactly remember. That was on the contraband list that I got called about. But if you want pink, beautiful pink foliage, all you have to do is walk around where they sell heucheras and look for the ones that are pink, or have a great experience and go online where someone sells heucheras and pick yourself out some pink ones. I don't grow dahlias, but my sister does, and she tells me I need to. You have to stake them and give them a little love, and sometimes I'm a little lazy, but this is a gorgeous creature. It doesn't even look real. That pink and all those shades, it to me looks like it's been painted. This is another fabulous plant. This is columbine. This is a reseeding annual. All you have to do is just let it be, and you'll get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And the biggest job is cutting off the spent heads and cutting back foliage that has gotten not so pretty. But the way I started my columbines is a sad memory, but it makes me think when the situation happened at Columbine, the school Columbine. One of the nurseries had a memory section set up of columbines. Naturally, because I wanted to pay my respects, I bought one of every kind. But I love these pink ones. You can see there's light pink ones and dark pink ones, and look how fabulous the pink is with the yellow pansies. If there's one plant that I would want everybody to try, it's a peony. This is the kind of peony that blooms and then dies back to the ground. And they're coming, peonies normally do not care for Alabama. They must have a cold winter, and they don't really like our heat, but that has not stopped me yet. I'm still trying, and I just was reading an article online that one of the nurseries, I'll just tell you, it's Plant Delights, is in North Carolina, is having a lot of luck with heat-tolerant peonies. So if you want to try one, this is a good year to do it. I heard they like manure tea, so I actually mix it up. The more sun, the better. This is not a shrinking violet that wants to be in the shade. It needs sun. But isn't that beautiful? This is out of my yard. It's a Japanese anemone. It is a spreading perennial, and when I say spreading, I mean spreading. If you got one, you'll have 500, and the deer love them as much as I do. They're also called, I think I saw somewhere that they were called the windflower, but I'm not absolutely sure if this one is also known as the windflower. And I don't know where I got this pink one, but if you find me next spring somewhere and say, may I have one, I'll be sure to pass it on to you because, as I say, it spreads, and it likes sun, and it likes water, and it's beautiful. Angel's trumpet. I don't grow these, but I love them dearly. They are extremely toxic, every part of them, the leaves, the flowers, the blooms. This is not maybe a plant if you've got little children that love to get in the flowers, or you got a puppy that wants to eat things, but if you don't, you should have one. This loves the morning sun and a little bit of afternoon shade. It's a gorilla for water and fertilizer, and the fragrance is heavenly. And it opens sort of late in the afternoon and will close down during the day. But the smell, you just walk out your yard and you can just inhale the angel's trumpet. I guess they are angel's trumpet. You know it's summer when the angel's trumpets are blooming. Pink dogwood. Every yard needs a pink dogwood. And this is a bright pink dogwood, so can we say this one inspires passion? Everybody should have a pink dogwood, if that's the way you want to have pink in your yard. And if you're having a dogwood, please remember it's an understory plant. It likes some relief from the hot sun. It's a deciduous tree, but the tree without any leaves on it, the bark is really beautiful and deserves a place in every yard. This is another one that I grow. It's a variegated pink weigelia. It dies back in the winter, and if you could see it right now, you'd ask me why I had that in my yard, and I said because I love these pink flowers and the variegated leaves. I had a little trouble with mine last summer. I'm not sure if I gave it too much water or not enough, but this is also will take full sun. And between the various colors of pink in the flowers and those beautiful leaves, you have a stunner in your garden. I started collecting these begonias, I don't know, several years ago, and I managed to kill at least a dozen. That doesn't stop me. I was looking on the internet at them today, and they have gorgeous pinks. Now, this is a house plant, but the funniest thing was 2 of mine that I thought had died, I threw out in the yard to kind of give them an honest burial, and they came back up again. I'm not sure if it was a sheltered place, but they did come back. But these can get huge, and you can pinch them and grow more. But these are not real difficult to find, but all these different kinds are not real easy. But if you go online and look up Rex begonia, you'll be overwhelmed at the pink leaves. This is just a beautiful pink rose that I saw. I don't think there's anything much sweeter than a pale pastel pink rose. And you see the pink is so beautiful with the green. This is a foxglove. This is a biennial, and I chose this one. This picture, I have a foxglove in my yard. One year it'll look like this and one year it won't, but I love the combination of the pink with that chartreuse green, because one of the reasons we're talking so much about color is not just for the color of the plant, but to put them in your garden so they make a happy combination, and that you have a lot of interest in your garden because of the combinations of colors. One neat thing to do in a garden is to pick a color like pink, the light pink, the dark pink, both pinks, and carry it all the way around your yard so that you have a theme. I think it's nice to mass them. You can use them as a focal point like the variegated Weigelia, but if you had a bunch of beds, I would carry the pink theme all around the yard. Here's another zinnia picture, and what I liked about this zinnia is look how fabulous the pink looks with that. I'm not sure if that is a dark fuchsia or it's almost got red looking around it, but I wanted you to see how great pink looks with the contrasting colors around it. Because when you're doing your yard, you want to think about what looks pretty together, just like you do in your house. Be an interior decorator in your yard. I wanted everybody to see how majestic all these pinks were and how they combined with the white and the red and the purple and the yellow. And don't I wish this was my yard? But when something gets this big, I usually decide to prune it because my husband says it gets him wet when he walks the dog. But even the lavender is still, to me, in the pink family, but that's just an absolutely magnificent view. And I think it's one that all gardeners would like to look out their window and see. I chose this combination because we've got several colors of pink. Up in the corner, we've got pink cleome, a very, very pale. Then we've got hot pink zinnias, hot pink with the yellow centers. And then over to the left, that looks like it may be, I'm not quite sure, but it looks like it may be Sweet William. And then you've got some more pink flowers, and they're kind of a pinky purple. And then you mix them with orange, orangey yellow, and it's fabulous. And most of us wouldn't even think about mixing all these colors together. This is when a color wheel really helps because you can see what colors look great together. I'm looking at the little yellow ones, and they have sort of a marigold foliage, but the flower does not look like a marigold, so I'm not quite sure what it is. It may be some sort of little zinnia. I'm not absolutely sure, so I'm not going to make a solid guess here. And basically, what this whole 45 minutes to an hour, because we may get to an hour, was about being inspired with color and taking chances and stepping out of your comfort zone of yellow or white and moving into a color that you hadn't really thought about, which is pink. And if you can see in this, we have 4 shades of pink, and I even see some red down there. So it was a very famous garden, I believe, in London. So not many of us may have these beautiful stepping stones, but look at the white trees in the background and how these colors all go together. Because when we see these gardens in magazines and we ooh and ah over the flowers and what they look like, part of the reason is because how they're arranged and how they mix all the colors together. And it's eye-stopping. I mean, this is the kind of garden that would make you absolutely stop. But I want all of y'all to be inspired. It's Valentine's month, and when I was a little child, I remember that Valentines were always pink and red. The envelopes were pink, or they're the combination of pink and red. Maybe you'll have some pink tulips on the table instead of red roses this year. Maybe you'll choose to use some pink in your yard, knowing that it inspires different emotions, and to bring those emotions into your garden and into your life. I wanted to show you something, and I'm really hoping that it's going to show. We're going to leave this beautiful. I was shopping in one of our stores and decided I would look at the paint chips. And this is a way to know how much pink there is in our world. All of these are marked pink. So just as there are in the decorator world pinks, so there are in the flower world. And I hope that y'all might follow me on Facebook, on the Southern Gardener, or send me a note on the library's Facebook page and let me know how you're going to use pink in your garden. And I wish to all of you a pink life. And thank you to Teresa for letting the Crazy Plant Lady, certified now, come back and talk about her favorite thing is flowers. I've been living in a pandemic bubble now for about a year, and most of that bubble has been spent out in my yard redoing. There's not a weed or a bug that would dare to walk through my garden because I'm always around, but it can bring you a lot of peace and a lot of satisfaction, especially if you add pink. I will be back next month in March, and we are going to talk about something that is pretty big in the garden world and probably always has been. I've just caught on. We're going to talk about native wildflowers and how they can improve your world. Anyway, if anybody thinks of a pink flower that I missed, let us know, and we'll add it to our list. And thank you to the library, and please think pink. Believe in pink. It is real. Bye-bye. See you next month.